Hey guys, Joe Miles here with Osseo Gear. This is the Mission Whitetail podcast. We're going to be doing a deep dive into what it truly takes to kill these mature bucks. We're going to step outside the box and look at the why for gear, tactics, training, and more importantly, the mindset from over 35 years of chasing these magnificent animals all over North America. Thank you for following along and welcome to Mission Whitetail. All right, guys, welcome back to the Mission Whitetail podcast, episode, I think this is 11.
I think it's 12.
Excuse me, number 12. Appreciate that. Today, we're going to dive right in, as always, and the topics we're going to cover are Ozonics, mock scrapes, and give kind of a season update because we both have knocked down some bucks here in the opener, so we'll maybe go through those setups and how we killed them and that sort of thing. Sound good to you?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's start off with Ozonics because you get a lot of people ask about that, about scent control, and I was very anti-Ozonics because of several things that I've experienced over the years. I'll talk about one story real quick. In Ohio, was hunting with a guy up there, very experienced big buck killer, had a ground blind and had been there since the ground blind had been in this food plot since the spring, and this was late season. He was hunting over food late season and had a marginal win, and I helped him get set up in that ground blind, and he had two Ozonics. He had one on the window that the wind was blowing in and one on the window that the wind was blowing out. So we had two of them running, full steam, and starting to get to be prime time. A big lead doe came in about 40 yards downwind of the ground blind and immediately looked at the ground blind, put her nose up in the air, stomped, snorted, and hauled up, took off out of there. So when he got back that evening, he told the story, and he said, I'm done with them. That's everything you could possibly do. Now, whether she was smelling the ozone or whether she was smelling him, we don't know. But she spooked, she freaked out, and it was not because the ground blind had just been there, because the ground blind had been put in there in the spring. Fast forward to us, me and you, Kevin, in Kansas. We ran them for a whole hunt there, 7, 8, 10 days, however long it was, and it didn't matter whether we were running it or not running it. If a deer got downwind of us and the thermals were dropping, they smelled us. Blew just like normal deer. So I got finished with them. I said I'm not using them anymore. This year, two good buddies of mine from the Midwest convinced me to give them another try. These are some of the premier big, I'm not going to mention any names, but premier big buck killers. Both of them have 200 inchers under the belt. One of them has multiple 200 inchers. They're hunting Boone and Crockett's.
Kind of narrowed it down there.
No, I've got several buddies that have multiple 200 inchers. So
yeah. Keep on going.
Yeah, he's short too. Maybe that narrows it down even more. I'm not going to say the state. It's near Columbus. So, all right, moving on. So I got two of them. I bought two of them, and so I killed a buck on opening day and did not have the Ozonics with me. And we'll get into that story in a little bit. But then the second buck I killed was actually the second day I've hunted. So I've been very fortunate this year. Hunted twice, killed two bucks. I had a marginal win, and it was hotter and more humid than 40 hells, if I can say that. So I said, you know what? I'm taking the Ozonics. I'm going to give it a try. If ever there's a chance to try it, it is now. So get in the tree. It's 91 degrees, 65% humidity, and a 1 to 3 mile an hour wind blowing from the southeast. Set the Ozonics up, put it up where it's supposed to be over my head, facing, I guess if the wind's coming out of the southeast, I got it facing northwest or I have it. No, I actually have. Yeah, I have it facing the way the wind is coming, so that my scent is blowing into the Ozonics stream. If that made any sense.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so I cut the thing on, and right away, it's noisy. I like to really be able to hear, because I can hear them walking, hear them breaking twigs, and so it's kind of like almost a sound machine hum, and it cuts down on my hearing, and I'm not able to hear as well as I could. So I was like, all right, there's strike one. Apparently they've gotten a lot quieter, and I could have had it too low to my head. I don't know, but it was making a noise and impeding me being able to hear. When the wind would blow, it was fine. When the wind stopped blowing, I just smelled constant an ozone smell. And I thought, all right, it's working, man. If I'm smelling this stuff, it's falling down, got the waterfall going, I'm good to go. I can deal with the smell. So 6:30 rolls around, and here comes two 2-year-olds, one out of velvet, one in velvet. I actually have it on video. And they're actually coming from the southeast. And so they got the wind at their backs. They come in, and they're coming to a muscadine flat. There's a bunch of muscadines in this thicket, and that's why I was hunting there. I'll get into the hunt breakdown in a minute. But they were coming to eat muscadines, and it's early in the season, and these 2-year-olds weren't really paying attention to wind. They were just coming in there to eat. And they looped around a little bit and got into 25, 30 yards of me. And the first one, who was in velvet, he stops, sticks his head up in the air, and starts smelling. Now, granted, the wind is blowing literally from them to me, but it's 1 mile an hour to no wind at all. So he stops, nose up in the air, starts smelling, gets a little nervous, kind of backs out, wants to come back in and eat, walks over a little bit, and then he's like, nope, I'm out of here. I smell something I don't like, turns around, walks out of there. The other one comes in, and Kevin, you've seen the footage. He throws his head up in the air and starts smelling and looking up there at me.
Mm-hmm.
And he backs out of there, and they both trot off. And I'm like, my gosh, I had the wind right. Thermals were still should have been going up because it was so hot. I mean, I wasn't 100% sure if they were dropping yet, but let's say that they were. I cut the machine off. I turned the Ozonics off. 30 minutes later, here comes the 10-point I want to shoot. 4-year-old. He comes in. He's got the wind right. He comes in, loops in way downwind of the muscadines and actually way downwind of me, and comes right under me, and I shoot him at 4 steps. Never had a clue I was in the world, bebopping through there. Started out on the same trail those 2-year-olds were on. I could see out in the woods, but then he looped way out to get downwind of the muscadines and come in. So that was kind of the icing on the cake with me and Ozonics. They're bulky, they're hard to set up, they're noisy. As far as the plastic and all of that would have been worth it if it had worked in the multiple situations that I've tried. Guys that use them and swear by them, more power to you, not bashing the product. I'm just giving my experience with them, and my experience is not good. So we try to keep it real and provide value where it is. That's my experience, and so there you have it. That's Ozonics. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've saw it, working in Kansas where we were still getting busted with the thermals falling, and I've even used them, a few years ago on my own, and I've used them in honey holes where I've at least seen does and things like that, and I've had a good wind, and I'd get skunked. So it's just more crap to carry that I think it's just a gimmick. So I don't use them at all.
There you have it. We'd love to get y'all's feedback. I know, again, 2 of my good buddies use them, and they kill big deer and swear by them. So that's the take on Ozonics. Let's dump into mock scrapes because I'm headed to Alberta tomorrow. I mean, this won't air till next week, so when this airs, I will actually be in Alberta. But when I get home, I'm going to be moving all my cameras to natural scrapes and mock scrapes. So I've been asked quite a bit about how do you create a mock scrape, what's a mock scrape, all that sort of stuff. To simplify it and speed things up, guys, if you want to go to Don Higgins's YouTube channel, he's got a really detailed video there on mock scrapes, and it shows you step by step how to do it. I've probably modified that. I bought a bunch of the rope for the rope scrapes, but it's still got a real chemical smell to it, so I'm not going to use that. I'm going to find existing scrapes, open them up, and I probably will put some buck urine in there to get them going, but you don't have to. I mean, they see them, and if it's a scrape they've used in the past and you open it up, they'll hit it again. I normally don't mess with the licking branches. When I do the rope scrape, I will. I'll dump some buck tarsal, some orbital gland in the ropes. But again, just go check out the Don Higgins YouTube channel, and he's got a whole thing on rope scrapes and a mock scrape. Literally, I go in with a hard tooth rake it out big, about 3 feet by 3 feet, dump some buck urine in there, and put my camera on it and just let it bake. And what will happen, what normally happens, they'll start hitting them at night. As soon as they come out of velvet, I posted a picture this morning of a 3-year-old hitting one at night. He came in, heads up in the branches. It was one I made last Saturday. Some of our bucks are still in velvet. They all should be out by the end of next week, I would think. And they're going to start hitting the scrapes, and they'll start hitting them at night. And that's okay. It's okay that they're hitting them at night now, because as soon as those temperatures drop and those does get ready, they're going to be coming through there in daylight. So it's good for them to be hitting them at night. I mean, sure, you'd love for them to hit them in daylight, but it's all right. Don't freak out if it's only at night, because if they're coming through there, you get the same buck on that scrape multiple times at night, buddy, when it gets to be right, he's going to come through there in daylight.
Yeah, he'll be in there for sure. Yeah, I do the same thing. Sometimes I won't even put buck urine in mine. I'll kick it out with my boots. I try to put one near all of my stands. I'll try to kick one out with my boots just to give them something to look at and get them to stop without you having to stop them. That's worked for me in the past. And then if they establish it, they'll send it up on their own.
Yeah, without a doubt. I do it just to do it. I don't think it can hurt. And so yeah, I throw the urine in there, and absolutely, man. If a big dominant buck has got his hackles up and he's coming through and does are starting to get right, he's going to walk up to that scrape.
Yep.
Now, when they're running and rutting and chasing and does are breeding, they could give 2 darns about a scrape. But, buddy, this magic time, this pre-rut that's coming up, man, mock scrapes are deadly. I want one near every stand, every funnel, every pinch point that I'm hunting in. I want a mock scrape in there.
Yeah, and regardless of if they're wide open or not, it's still a good place to put a camera to get an inventory of what's coming through there that time of year. I always want to put it on the bigger the scrape, the better for me. Like what are they called? What are the big
community scrapes?
Community scrapes. Yep, lost the word for a second, but yeah, that and I guess creek crossings are what I'm going to be moving my my cameras to.
Pinch points, big funnels, which for me is really hard to get. I have a few of them on the swampland that I hunt here in South Carolina, but there aren't major terrain features. It's so flat. We've got some deep creeks that have crossings that you can get on, and then what I call a funnel is when you have fresh cutovers that are super, super thick and then like wood lots in between them. I'll call that a funnel. And then even the edge of a cutover in hardwoods can be a funnel, them working, with them working the edges.
Yeah, I got when we were out at your club, I got video of those 3 bucks. It was, I think, late November. They were running together. I think it was like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and they were working the edge of that cutover and the edge of the swamp.
Don't talk about that spot.
Ixnay on the Omps way.
Don't talk about that
He's going to find that spot.
Yes, they are.
Anyway, they were there. And I synced them.
You saw them with your own eyes.
I got video of them.
Yeah, you did. One of them tried to run you over.
Working them he didn't like me in his house. I might have to see if I can get that off my old phone and maybe put it up on here. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, you should.
That's pretty neat.
And so everybody, the question is to be, what were y'all doing in there? I actually 10-ringed a buck, and he ran, well, a 10-ring might be an exaggeration. He was quartering away, and I did hit him a little bit back, but hit him really good. And he ran into this big, giant slough that was probably 150 yards wide. He ran out in that slough and drowned in it, I never could find him. I followed blood for 70 yards. He hit that water, and so we were in there looking for that buck and never did find him.
And it was deep. It was almost over my wader, so it was not that I'm very tall, but it was at least like 4.5 feet deep.
So Hayes would have needed a snorkel.
Yeah. He would have had to float in on some Ozonics.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, but they like them edges.
Yeah. All right. So mock scrapes, Ozonics. Let's get to a season update. Like I said earlier, it's been a great start for me.
Give them. We didn't even talk about your other kill. I was gonna say let's give them like your stand setup and stuff, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Opening day. Let's see. This was August 15th here in South Carolina. That's our opener. Had a really good funnel. Found a bachelor group of bucks that were feeding in a rather large food plot on this property I have permission to hunt on, but they were all nocturnal. And so I was trying to figure out where they were bedding and seeing if I could cut them off. And there was a 2-year-old cutover that was so thick and so hot, and everything was grown up about waist high to maybe shoulder height. And I said, there's no way they're bedding in this because it's too hot. The bugs would be eating them. It's just too hot. There's no shade out there. Well, there was a little sliver of woods that went back to the river, and it opened up into big hardwoods. And I said, they've got to be bedding on that river, but it was too late in the year for me to get back in there, and I wasn't going to go bump them. So what I did is kind of got in the halfway point. I found some muscadines and I found some pawpaws. That's a tree that we have here. Some guys say they're toxic to deer, but I've actually seen deer eat them with my own eyeballs. So, and the deer didn't fall over dead. So, yeah. So yeah. I mean, he could have walked off and died, but anyway, it was pawpaw trees and muscadines. Obviously, muscadines, you've heard us say it multiple times. That's a big food source. It's really kind of a snack for them. They love them, but they're not going to get a ton of them. So it was a perfect staging area. Put my camera in there, and sure enough, all 5 bucks, some does, they were coming in there 30 minutes before dark, and then they were obviously heading out to the food plot. So I'm watching that camera, and this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but it is not a sales pitch because we are not sponsored by them. But we get an overhead red moon. No, it was underfoot red moon. You can go back and look at the moon guide for August 15th. It's a red moon day, and the 14th was a red moon day as well. And I'm not kidding you. I've got the trail camera footage. On the 14th, they daylighted on those muscadines. So the morning of the 15th, let everything kind of clear out, 10 o'clock in the morning. No, it was 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock in the morning, I snuck in there, hung my stand, got everything set up, and the temperatures were actually dropping. It was like 78 that afternoon, and we had like a 6 to 10 mile an hour wind out of the southwest. I mean, it was perfect conditions. And I got in my stand. I was about 30 yards from the muscadines, and had a really good hole to shoot through, and it really was just like clockwork. 2 little bucks show up at 6 o'clock. A doe and fawn group show up. They're all feeding around on these muscadines in there, and we'll do a hunt breakdown on the Joe Miles Hunting YouTube channel and show the footage because I got all of this on video. And then 7 o'clock, super early, here they come. It's the whole group, 5 bachelor bucks, and 2 of the younger ones come bebopping right in. Another one comes in, and then I see him and the 2 older ones. He was a 5-year-old, big 6-point. Kind of hang back for a minute, but once those other bucks came through there and kind of spread out and started feeding, here they come. And I didn't waste any time. I mean, he walked in, I got drawn, quartering away, perfect. Shot him a little bit low, but it's right through the heart. And he took off running, and of course, where does he run?
The thickest, nastiest.
He ran right out that 2-year-old cutover. Right out in that 2-year-old cutover, beelined it 80 yards. Right, I heard him run into a big blowdown, crash, got down, followed him out in there, lucky I didn't step on a rattlesnake or a water moccasin. And then I got to thinking, I said, Kevin is 45 minutes away.
I did offer to come help.
You did. My son has started college, so I called my wife, and I was like, hey, can Jack come down here and help me? She says, no, he's got some fraternity function thing he's got to go to.
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities. So then I said, well, can you come help me?
Yeah, right.
She said, you want me to hold the light or something?
I'll send the French Bulldogs.
I'll send Sammy and Brennan and Dale, and they can hook them up to a harness and pull it.
Like sled dogs.
Yeah. So needless to say, that was a bad idea. And I did call you, or I text you, and you said, I'm happy to come help. And I said, no, I'll figure it out. And so I just got in there, and 5 feet at a time, I needed the exercise anyway. Got him out of there, got him gutted, loaded up, and just a perfect textbook early season hunt on a funnel in a staging area before they got out into the food plot because they were getting out there at night. And when we do the hunt breakdown, it'll make a lot more sense than on this podcast. But the wind direction was key too. It'll be interesting how, it actually was that edge wind that guys talk about where it was good for them, but I was far enough away from the muscadines that it was good for me too. So we'll break all that down. All right, Kev, we got time.
You want me to go for mine, or you want to do your second one?
No, you go ahead. Let's go in order.
Okay.
You were next.
So, yeah, mine was a day later, I think. It was the 16th. And it was still on that cool spell. It was actually switched out of the southwest to the northwest because I remember I had to go in there that I did a hanging hunt because I didn't have anything for a north wind. It's
always south.
Yeah, we've never had a north wind that early. But anyway,
were you sat when you were in saddle?
I was in the saddle. I'll get into that. So I had this deer on camera since like the end of May on a mineral site, and I basically watched him on camera. He wasn't like a daily thing. It seemed like it was once every week he would show up, and it was in the afternoon. Or no, I'm sorry. It was early in the morning, right after daylight. And I was like, that's kind of weird, but I can make it work.
So he's bedding in there, you think?
Yeah. I found on the property there's this low area where I guess it would flood if we got a lot of rain because it was like almost like the swampy black ground, and it had a ton of green briar in it in the spring and summertime. And they were every one of it was nipped off, and I was like, okay. And then I was walking a trail on the outskirts of this opening, and I found some muscadine vines. I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a good spot. Set up a mineral site and see what's coming in there. And he was one of them in a bachelor group. So long story short, we get to a week before the season. I go in there to pull one of my standalone cameras because I was trying to get pictures of him coming in on see which trails he was preferring to come in on. So I backed off, like 80 yards or so and put a regular just standalone camera, non-text camera on a trail that I could get to easily. I'm going in there in the middle of the day. It's like a weekend, and the neighbor is cutting a tractor path, which isn't far from the spot I was hunting. He's cutting basically his property line.
That always helps.
For no reason. So he's just chainsawing, and I'm like, well, this deer's gone. So long story short, the day, I think it was opening day that afternoon, right at dark, he shows up. And I was like, there's no way he's gonna hang around. And with the pressure next door, I'll probably get a lot of flack for it, but I took I call it the long bow. It's got a bolt and a trigger, and it uses this mean sand. It makes a boom. But anyway, I was like,
do they make fireworks out of that same stuff?
He could. Some people call it spicy rain when you get hit if you get hit by it. Anyway, I took my gun in there because I was like, this dude's going to chase him off. And sure as hell, when I went back in there, there was a gigantic tripod stand right on the property line.
So this is a permission spot that multiple people have permission. Neighbors hunt like crazy.
And there are these huge dogs that just run the property. Anyway, I didn't think I would have time with the little guy and all that, and I figured he'd be long gone. And I was like, you know what? I don't have a spot for this wind. I'm going to go in there with my stuff on my back and my rifle and see if I can get it done, get the monkey off my back, because I don't know how much I'm going to be able to hunt with the little guy. And anyway, it's not an excuse.
No, I mean, it's a great buck. I mean, they put it up on the ICO page today. I mean, it's a beautiful buck, and I mean, I think that's a great example of why would anybody give you flack for that, right?
Well, I will say, I shot him, made an awesome shot on him with the rifle, and it's not the excitement with the bow. I mean, I've shot a lot of guns. I grew up with guns, and and I shot with the bow a lot, but I definitely could have moved in. Hindsight, I probably could have moved in closer and zapped him.
But I'm sure we've got listeners that rifle hunt, and there's
absolutely it's legal here.
Nothing. Absolutely, I'm all for it, man. I guarantee you, before you pull that trigger, your heart was racing and you were fired up.
I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes.
Well, that's the South Carolina bird of
yeah. That's our
state bird.
State bird. Anyway, so
you got him killed.
I went in there. I found a tree downwind of where he was coming in, and I only went like 2 sticks high because I couldn't see. It was only about a 50, 60-yard shot, but the canopy was so thick. It's a really thick spot. I couldn't see very far, so I went out, found a double trunk tree, got on the back side of it, went 2 sticks high with the Novik sticks, put up my platform, hooked in with my saddle, and it was another red moon date.
Those three together, 14, 15, 16.
I wasn't set up by the time I got there after work, it was probably pushing 5:45 by the time I got set up, and it wasn't like 5 or 10 minutes after I was settled in, I already had a doe and a fawn walk through, and I was like, holy moly. And then I looked at my phone, and I had another text camera on the other side of the property, and there were deer walking through there. And I was like, this is about to be, they're going to come in early. Sure as crap, right at dark, almost too dark to see. and I didn't see one mosquito, maybe one the whole hunt. And I was like, well, I had the can of spray in my bag, didn't put it on, and as soon as I get on the gun, I'm getting lit up. I remember getting on the gun, leveling it, and peeking at my right hand, and I had like 10 mosquitoes on this one. I had a handful on this, literally handful on this one, and they're all over in my face. And I showed you, it looked like it had chicken pox on my hands.
I was going to say monkey pox.
Monkey
yeah, chicken pox.
Is that politically correct these days? Monkey pox.
Monkey pox.
Anyway, he gave me a good shot, blasted him. Joe was in bed. Couldn't
I was definitely in bed if it was 8:30.
Yeah. So a lot of all my other buddies were busy. My one buddy Braden, if you're listening, Braden, thank you. But I called him because he's kind of a night owl, and I was like, "You want to quarter up a deer?" And he's like, "Come on over. I got beer in the fridge." But anyway, one good thing. I don't know if you guys have ever used it, but if you have a rope man ascender for your tether, for your saddle, it's good to wrap that around the deer's neck and hook it to whatever you got in your truck bed and pick his head up, and that'll hold it in place while you get the ass end up in the bed of the truck.
Yeah, I didn't have one of those.
Yeah, I don't even know how you did that without tearing the velvet, but that's how I had to do it, and I still struggled a little bit. That's pretty awkward, but that's my story for the first buck. Hopefully, he ain't the last of this year.
No, he won't be. All right, we'll get into your.
Well, let's take a quick break.
Yep.
Let me reset this.
Okay. All right, second buck. I touched on it earlier with the Ozonics, but I think we should go back to how I found the deer because this is a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
10-point, 4-year-old, and he's going to score right at 130, which for us is a pretty good.
That's
deer.
a hammer, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good buck. How I found out about this deer was from human intel. We need to do another hunt breakdown of this too.
Oh, is that deer?
Yeah, oh yeah.
They shouldn't have said that.
So
I wouldn't want to be a deer with that kind of intel out and Joe knowing about it.
So one of the caretakers of this property told me that coming in the front gate of the property 3 mornings in a row, right at daylight, right before daylight, he saw the biggest deer he's seen on the property coming out of some ag, going back into a hunt club that I'm a member of. So he wasn't actually on the property that the caretaker worked for. He was going into a property that I'm a hunt club member of. So naturally, what do? I go in and scatter trail cameras all over everywhere. I'm glassing the beans. I can't find him. Like something is just, I don't know how he's getting through here and I can't find him. So I cast the net wider and further away and I looked at a map and I said, all right, if he's going in, there's this huge field that is kind of grown up and again, way too hot for him to bed in. And like half a mile from this ag is a big corridor of probably 15-year-old, 20-year-old hardwoods. I mean, it's big enough that you can see through it pretty good and walk through it no problem. And I said, maybe he's bedding in there. So I went in there and I had a mineral lick in part of this, an old mineral lick, and the hogs turned it into a hog wallow because we got so many hogs. But I threw a camera up on that, and lo and behold, I get a nighttime picture of him. And it's like, I guess it was 10 o'clock at night. So I'm like, and the direction he was walking, he was heading towards that ag. And I said, this buck is bedding almost a mile because you always hear early season, they're bedding right by the ag.
Yep.
I mean, literally, the way a crow flies, is 3/4 of a mile where I got this picture. And it was dark. So I pushed back further because I had no real game plan. You know, I mentioned earlier I didn't want to get into where they were bedding and blowing them out, but I had no concept of where this buck was bedding. And these other deer, I knew they had to be bedding on that river, or either they were swimming across the river, which they weren't going to do. But anyway, I cast the net a little further back, went in, found briars. You mentioned that earlier, where they just, I call them cat briars, but there's those green briars eating down in this little thicket, and muscadine vines everywhere, and they had actually pulled some of the vines down. So I was like, all right, got to be something good here. Threw a camera on that, and this was last week that I threw the camera on the muscadines in that little thicket. And Saturday morning, I'm actually going out to move some other cameras and pull that stand that I'd killed the deer out of. And at 9:50 in the morning, I get a notification, and voila, that buck is standing there eating muscadines. And I'm like, I mean, 9:50 in the morning, no rhyme or reason, there he is. And he's there for 45 minutes. And he leaves, and when he leaves, I'm going to have to leave a portion of this story out because this is a hunt club, and I don't want the whole world to know right where I killed him. So there was a little bit more to this, but anyway, the buck left, and I go in and hang my stand at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I got back in there at 5:15, 5:30, and again set up the Ozonics. We kind of already been through that. He looped way downwind of me, and I shot him at 4 steps straight down, basically through the top of the scapula all the way through him. I put a blood trail up of him. He went 80 yards. The last, I guess, 50 yards. It was just.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now I was going to say, so you went in there midday, hung your set. What did the setup look like? What kind of stand and sticks?
Absolutely. So I went 5 sticks high because I had a higher canopy. And this time of year, I like to get higher because the humidity's so bad and the scent is so bad. So I like to get. I'm comfortable 5 sticks high. After that, I get a little nervous. I get a little what do you call it?
Vertigo?
Not vertigo, but scared of heights. Whatever that is. Is that vertigo?
Scared of heights?
Yeah, I'm scared of heights when it gets that high. Vertigo is when you flip upside down, right?
I don't know. It's when you get kind of like almost dizzy, I think. That's what happens to me. If I'm not holding on to something and I'm high up, I'll just be, if I go past eye level, I'm like, holy shit balls.
You don't like that?
No, I do not enjoy it. But I'll get up there high. I mean, we were up like 6 or 7 sticks one time in Illinois, and I got a nosebleed. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. So.
It wasn't from the altitude, but it was from that cold air. And I remember turning around, looking down at you. I was like, you got a tissue? And you're like, holy shit. My face is full of blood.
You died.
Anyway, so you're up there pretty high.
Yeah, 5 sticks high. I had one of the old original Lone Wolf stands. I did have to trim a few small shooting lanes. But for me, that really is my quote-unquote hang and hunt. Because then, I mean, obviously you're sweating your bag off, you know, and so I was able to leave, go home, get a shower, and then come back in there fresh. But then, you know, after sitting there for an hour, you're sweating again. But still, that's kind of my thing is, you know, I will hang and hunt for sure, and especially when I go to the Midwest and I'm trying to hunt all day if I've got to move or something. But for this one, got it hung in the middle of the day. I guess you could literally say cell camera and human intel knowing the buck was there, cell camera, and then using kind of deductive reasoning of where would be a practical place for him to be bedded. All of that, you know, kind of went into play, and a real safe travel corridor that had no pinches. What killed him was that food. Yep. Kind of those muscadines and the cell camera. That's what got him. And I guess I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, we're talking about the blood trail. We actually did another heavy light arrow test today, and it even shot the arrow or the broadhead that I shot through that deer. And I think we both have completely made our mind up. Really no questions. The Trypan, that Rage Trypan broadhead is devastating, gets plenty of penetration for whitetail, and is tough. It's a tough head. The blades will bend some, but there's too many advantages to me, once again, than disadvantages. And we don't need to get into a whole heavy light. Yeah,
but one thing, just that the size of the cut. We went down the road of the cut-on contact, small, fixed blades, and some people call that the Plan B setup. So if you hit bone or something like that, but I think our setups with the bigger cut is more of a Plan B setup. You're more likely to hit this big stomach area and hit liver and in the stomach than the femur bone or whatever it is.
Yeah. So in a 2-inch or sometimes 2 1/8, 2 1/2.
Yeah, cut, that'll save you.
It will. There'll be a blood trail versus no blood trail. But
exactly.
The blood trail on this one was incredible. It was. I can't believe Instagram allowed it, but I did. This is funny. So as the buck is coming in, I thought he was going to do exactly what the young ones did, and so I just put the camera on that spot because I'm self-filming, and you can see him in the background walk by, and then when he started getting way downwind of me, I got super nervous. I'm like, I'm going to have to kill him as soon as I can. I actually almost tried to shoot him through a bush, but I didn't. I held it together and let him walk on in, and literally 4 steps from the bottom of the stand, straight down, basically through the top of the scapula, out the chest cavity on the other side, 70, and you can hear the shot go off, and you hear him run, and then you hear me go, whew. The classic, whew. So two great hunts. Moving right along, I am leaving actually tomorrow midday to go to Alberta. I'm going to try and get on a whitetail up there. Don't know exactly what I am getting into. A guy that I've hunted with before is the guy running the deal up there, and so I know they're working hard to find some bucks, and I'm sure we'll do a lot of scouting when I get there and see what's going on. But I'm going to take a mobile setup, a Lone Wolf custom gear stand with me, and some sticks, and get up there. And I may be there for 4 days. I may be there for 10 days. I know they've got some really big mule deer as well, so I got no problem with a big mule deer. That's not really what I'm after or what I'm super passionate about. But if the whitetails are only hitting the alfalfa and canola in the afternoons, and the mule deer are bedded up in the mornings, and maybe do a stalk or two on a mule deer. What about you? What you got coming up?
I think probably Friday I'm going to be heading that spot in Kentucky that I went and scouted a month ago, meeting with a couple buddies up there, and I'll probably just do the Labor Day weekend deal, see what I can see. I was telling you earlier, I'm probably just going to try to get up there with enough time Friday afternoon to glass a field the day before opening day. And if I don't see what I want to see, I'm just going to keep getting in the observation spots and glassing. Once the season comes in, I'll have my bow with me. I'll be in a spot where I can see far. But if they come by, I'll be able to shoot them. But that's about it. So it'll be like a 2 or 3 day hunt, and then I'll be back home, and I might move around a couple cell cams if I don't get on something, and then make a couple runs back and forth later in the season.
So that's you made a good point, and I want to unpack it a little more before. This is going to be a little shorter podcast today, but you talked about going up and setting up an observation stand, and let's unpack that a little bit. What that basically means is a lot of guys are going to run in and they're going to see because you've got some trail cameras out and that sort of stuff, but let's just say you're going blind, right? Which you kind of are going.
I am. So, I mean, I know there's a buck worth shooting. He hasn't daylighted, but that doesn't mean he's not, like you're saying, that doesn't mean he's not coming out into one of them bean fields in daylight.
So you know that there's a good deer there, but you're basically going blind. You've never hunted this area. You've been out there in the spring to kind of check it out, hung a few cameras. So your plan of attack is this observation thing, which is genius, because a lot of guys would run in to an area where they think the deer is going to come out, and you're limited. You have a infant at home. You've got 3 days, 3 afternoons when the season comes in to get it done. Then you've got to get home for the family and the business.
Yep, the business.
So you're doing two things. You're scouting but hunting at the same time. And if you were to run in and just hunt where you think he is for 3 afternoons, and you can see 75 yards in each direction, you may get super, super lucky and kill him, but the chances are not real good. So by getting back where you can really see, you're still kind of in the game, but you're in a place where you can really see multiple bean fields, hundreds of yards. You've got your binoculars with you. You're covering a ton of ground, and all it takes is a glimpse of his antlers, and he's pretty much this time of year coming out in the same spot.
Yeah. That's the main reason I wanted to do the observation stand, is I want to see him, where he's coming out. Because if I just dive in there, I have an idea, a couple spots where I think he'd be bedded. But if I just dove in there and he came out downwind to me somewhere, then it's over. So I'll see exactly where, or try to see exactly where he comes out, and then go in there, midday the next day, or just do a hanging hunt and, see if he comes out again downwind of that trail. But like you're saying, he's probably going to do the same thing as long as he doesn't get busted. So,
yeah. Cool, man. Well, good luck in Kentucky. I'll keep you posted on Alberta. Yeah. But, guys, thank y'all again. We appreciate it. Feedback, we love to have it. And we'll do some of these hunt breakdowns on the YouTube channel where we can put up some really fancy drawings and maps.
Yeah.
We love maps.
On the whiteboard?
On the whiteboard, yeah. We'll get the whiteboard up. All right, guys, have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
And we'll have that the arrow build, the 450 versus 650 arrow weight test, the trajectory and penetration up.
And speed.
That'll be up in the next week or so.
Yeah, and that's going to be real fascinating. And I mentioned it multiple times, as we're filming. No dog in the fight, want the best setup. Not sponsored by Heavy Arrows, Light Arrows, any arrows for that matter. And it really does, it's eye-opening what we kind of uncover.
Yeah, and some of it might seem biased, but it's because of all the past testing that we've done, and there's just one, in our opinion, that's obviously better. Yeah. One setup that's better.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Thank y'all a lot. We'll be back on the next episode.
Yep. Thanks, guys.